Change often feels really overwhelming, and we can find ourselves in a place of wondering, what do I do? How do I step into this? Where in the world do I begin? In Celebrate Recovery, we say all the time that the place to start is with surrender. But what does that look like? We'll talk about it today.
Recovery can be hard, but it's worth it. There is hope knowing we can find healing one step at a time with Jesus and healthy community. Whether you're struggling with a hurt or a hang-up or a habit, you're not alone. During this podcast, we share real stories, practical tools, and powerful truths that inspire you to keep moving forward. No matter where you are on your journey, there's hope ahead. So stick with us as we walk this path together through Celebrate Recovery.
Well, hey, welcome back to Hope in Recovery, a Fellowship Celebrate Recovery podcast where we talk recovery conversations and life change stories to help keep us moving down this road towards healing and hope as we work our recoveries together, growing closer in relationship with God and others and ourselves in this incredible process of Celebrate Recovery. And I'm super glad for this conversation today, especially as we look at heading into 2026. What does it look like for us to lean into the places where God wants to change us? Change can seem really tough. It can seem really confusing. Where do I start? Where do I begin? And today we're talking about the starting place that we always recommend, which is surrender. And so super glad that you guys are here with us today. Let me introduce myself. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus. I struggle with anxiety and depression, sexual addiction, and grief. And my name is Andy. And I've got the great privilege of being able to help lead and shepherd our Celebrate Recovery ministry at Fellowship Fayetteville. And super grateful that we get to have these conversations weekly in this podcast. And if you're getting something out of these and you've been watching these for a while, if you wouldn't mind liking, subscribing, maybe sharing these, it helps us to get the word out. But today, as we lean into just the reality that we're stepping into a new year, that oftentimes when we step into a new year, what's at the forefront of our brain is what's going to be different this year. What are the things that I want to improve in? What are the things that are causing me pain? This new year feels like a really good space, a good change in season to be able to start addressing things that might be holding us back. And I know the tendency for me, whenever I hit spaces like this in my life, is to just try and just bunker down and just power through in my own strength and go, you know what, I see some things that maybe I'm discontent about in my life, and so let's just tackle it head on, and I'm ready to go. And you know, I think I lived my life like that for a long time. But what I realized really quickly is that my own willpower wasn't sustainable. That trying hard enough just to change me, it only got me so far. And I think we know that and we see that, especially as, you know, this year everybody's talking about New Year's resolutions. And, you know, I don't remember what amount of statistics, New Year's resolutions are kept, but it's a significant number. Don't make it past a month, and even more than that, don't make it past 2 or 3 months whenever we just resolve to change something in our lives. And in fact, we're listening to this right now on January 6th. This is when this episode is coming out. And so I wonder how many of our own New Year's resolutions maybe haven't even made it this far. And so I've come to realize in my life that when it comes to change, the place to start is not with my own strength. Because if I could have changed it by now, I would have changed it by now. And my own strength only gets me so far. And so where in the world do we start? Well, principle 1 and step 1 of Celebrate Recovery give us a really good place and good verbiage to kind of think through. Principle 1, it says this: realize I'm not God. I admit that I'm powerless to control my tendency to do the wrong thing and that my life is unmanageable. In step 1, it says we admitted we were powerless over our addictions and compulsive behaviors and that our lives had become unmanageable. And I think the language in principle 1 and step 1 always stick out to me. Even just that first phrase of principle 1, realize I'm not God. I wonder how often in my life I've stepped into situations thinking, I've got this. I know what to do. I've got the best answers. I'm going to lean into this. And so often I take that to my life and the things that I want to change and the things that I want to ask God to help me walk through. Matthew 5:3 goes with principle 1. It says this, blessed are those who know they are spiritually poor. That idea of spiritual poverty is this idea that I can't do this on my own. That under my own strength, like I'm not going to be able to survive. It actually, in the language, it brings to mind like a beggar on a street corner. And you think about, Jesus said these words in Matthew 5:3. And so you think back 2,000 years ago in Jesus' day, the beggars were around the gates to the cities, and they would sit out there with their bowls or their hands outstretched. And it was this posture of, sir, miss, like I need a piece of bread, or I need some money. I need you to fill my cup, or I'm not going to make it another day. And Jesus tells us in Matthew 5:3 that when we have that attitude towards our spiritual life, when we have that attitude towards the things in our heart, in our character, in our life that we want to change, we're blessed when we realize that we can't do this stuff on our own. In fact, there's a paraphrase of the Bible called the Message translation, and I think it says Matthew 5:3, something along these lines, that you're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. When there's less of you, there's more of God. And I love that idea. You're blessed when you find yourself at the end of your rope. When I'm at the end of my rope, it's at a place where I'm tired of striving. And I've exhausted all of my energy and all of my strength. And when I come to the end of my strength, that allows me to the place where I can start finding healing. In recovery, we call this place a place of surrender. And I know whenever I got into recovery, that idea of surrender was a really hard idea for me. Surrender to me, it meant that I had set out to try and do something, but I couldn't do it, and therefore I had failed. But that's not what we mean when we talk about surrender in recovery. It doesn't mean that we failed. Getting to a place of surrender doesn't mean that we are something in the sense of like we are completely and totally unable to do life at all. It's surrender really is just the admission that I need help. It's the admission that I can't do this on my own and that my strength really is not enough. You see, principle 1 and step 1, when we lean into it, there is an understanding of who we rightly are. That there is a God and I'm not it. But it also emphasizes confession and honesty. That there are things that I'm trying to manage and control under my own strength that I wasn't designed to manage and control. And so when we can come to a place where we allow ourselves to surrender the things that we've been holding on to, that's where we can start our healing journey. But surrender also kind of feels a little bit like this big amorphous idea. Like, what does surrender look like on the ground? And I came across these, and I think this is a really good framework. Surrender, I think, can be summarized in one way in kind of 3 little statements. That surrender is honest, surrender is relational, and surrender is ongoing. And so what do we mean by that? First off, surrender is honest. Surrender, when I come to truly surrender something, it me being willing to actually name what I'm surrendering, that I can name the reality of my struggle, that I can name the reality of my hurt, that I can name the reality of the weight that I've been carrying without minimizing. It's just me coming into agreement with the reality on the ground that, hey, I've been trying to manage this on my own and this isn't working. And, I think about this so clearly for me in my journey with finding healing from my pornography addiction. For years in my life, I wasn't willing to be honest with myself that I had a real issue with pornography in my life. And I remember being in my first step study small group, and when I finally came to the point of acknowledging, like, hey, this really is bad and I don't have control over this. I can't just stop whenever I want to. Like, I feel like this is something that I'm structuring my life around. And I found that out because I tried for years to try and control it. I tried for years to try and work my own recovery and healing on my own, under my own strength. But I had to come to the place of being honest with God and with myself that I am trying my hardest to manage this and nothing is working. And so surrender is honest. Surrender is when we come to be able to go, you know what? There is reality going on and I have to name it. When we can name it, we can start to tame it. When we can be honest about it and come out of hiding, we can start to step into healing. And so surrender is honest. Surrender is also relational. We're told to surrender to someone, not into a void. And so when we surrender our things to God, we're actually inviting God to speak into and walk into those areas with us. And here's the beautiful reality, like God, if there are things going on in our life, God is not waiting to scold us and chide us for the things that have happened in our life and the things that we've done. God is actually for us. He's actually with us. He's actually longing to walk with us in those spaces. And so, like, I love that Jesus tells us in Matthew chapter 11, verse 28, he says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." God calls us to surrender our stuff to him because he wants to walk with us in it. Now, surrender is also relational in this. God calls you and I to live in community and relationship with others too. You see, other people were created because we need other people in our life, and God designed us to walk with other people. And so surrender is relational. Surrender opens the door to community as we step into inviting God into our struggles, but also as we attend open share, as we attend step study, as we find safe people to bring into our story, we can bear each other's burdens with us. And true surrender involves us and necessitates us inviting other people into that space. Now, here's the other thing with surrender. It's an ongoing thing. Surrender is not a one-time prayer. It's a daily, sometimes hourly thing, especially as we're starting to develop new rhythms and learning new ways of doing things. You can bet our old patterns and our old cycles, they're not going to go down without a fight. I remember early on in my recovery, a good friend of mine was talking about what it looked like for him to surrender and walk kind of that one day at a time, one moment at a time attitude of surrender. And he said, some days were good and I felt like I was saying, God, help me just make it through today. He said, sometimes it was harder and I just needed to slice it thinner and say, God, help me make it to 10 a.m. God, help me make it to noon. God, help me make it to lunch today. And knowing that surrender, it's a heart attitude. When we get into principle 3, we talk about the difference between surrendering our life and our will to Christ's care and control. Our life is a once-in-a-lifetime surrender. It's a once-in-a-lifetime decision to surrender our life over to Jesus, but it's a daily decision to recommit our will and surrender our will to Jesus. Because I know in my willpower, I try to do things under my own strength that lead me to some bad places. But surrender is a posture that we return to, not a box that we check and move past. But here's the beauty. It's in surrender that strength is found. In 2 Corinthians, it tells us that God says, my grace is enough for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. I love that. If you feel like you're struggling moving forward and stepping forward into this next season, into this change that God's wanting to work in your life, know that He says that the way that we find strength is by allowing ourselves to be weak before Him. And He's the one that provides us strength. And so surrender is honest, surrender is relational, and surrender is ongoing. We'll have a few more closing thoughts here in just a second, but we're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Hey, Forever family. Every Friday night, we have our Celebrate Recovery meetings at Fellowship Fayetteville and Fellowship Rogers. At 6 p.m., we have a great meal for connection with other recovery brothers and sisters. Then we meet for large group at 7 p.m., followed by open share groups at 8 p.m. We have the same schedule at both campuses, where you'll find different teachers and different worship teams, but the same great experience. We'd love for you to join us this Friday night. It's never too late to start or start over again. For more information, visit fellowshipcr.org.
All right, we're back from our break. We're talking about this idea of, starting with surrender as we're leaning into this new year and new season. And what does surrender look like? That it's honest, it's relational, and it's ongoing. It's an attitude, a heart attitude of surrender. But as we, kind of close our conversation today, I do just want to say this. I know some of us may be really struggling with even getting to this place of admitting that we've surrendered. And I know that can feel like a really hard place. That can feel like a place that doesn't feel like it's fun to get to that realization. But I want to encourage you with this. The presence of struggle is not the evidence of failure. The presence of struggle is also not the evidence that God doesn't love you. And the presence of struggle is also not evidence that you're not worth the change and the work it takes. You see, all of us struggle with things in our life. To be human means to struggle. And so if you find yourself in a place where maybe there's some addictions going on in your life, maybe you struggle with pornography or alcohol like I have in my life, maybe there's some relationships spinning out of control, maybe you're realizing that there's some people-pleasing tendencies or some codependency going on in your life that's making it hard for you to kind of lean in to the change that God wants to work. I want you to know, it's okay for you to not be okay. It is. All of us struggle. Struggle is a common condition when it comes to humanity. And so if you struggle, congrats, you're a part of the normal crowd. The question becomes, what do we do with the struggle? You can either choose to continue to hide it. I did that for a long time. I tried to hide it and keep it from other people. But I'll tell you what that led to in my life. That led to me fearing that people would find out. What if people really knew the things that I was trying to keep hidden in the closet of my heart? What would happen? And that fear led to anxiety. That anxiety led to a lack of vulnerability. That lack of vulnerability led to a lot of self-imposed loneliness and isolation. And I know there's a lot of us that deal with loneliness. I've dealt with loneliness a lot in my life too. Stepping into recovery, I realized that a lot of the loneliness that I was dealing with was actually something that could find healing. I could find healing from it just by letting one person into it. The thing that I'm most scared to let somebody into is the thing that I most need to share with somebody. And I know it's scary. I know it's a risk. But there are safe people where it's worth taking that risk. And so we can choose to keep hiding it. We can also choose to keep trying to change it under our own strength. I did that for a long time as well. I can remember when I first started saying, okay, maybe I do have a little bit of a problem with pornography. I wasn't ready to fully admit the depth of how bad it was. But when I was able to say, man, I think I've got a little bit going on, I remember, and I think I've told this story before, but I went to a Christian bookstore in the town that I was living in with every intention, I'm going to find a book, I'm going to read the book, and the book's going to fix me. And, I'm glad that I at least made a step towards help. But the funny thing is like when I walked into that bookstore, there was a pretty girl behind the counter. And so I was like, I'm not going to get a book on pornography addiction because I'm too embarrassed to put that on the counter and pay for the book. And so I found a book on gambling addiction that was marked like half off or like 70% off. And I bought that and I never read it. But it was kind of what I realized is that my own way of doing things has gotten me what I have right now. Like, if I try to keep doing things the same way, I'm going to keep getting what I've got. But if I can admit that I need help, and if I can ask for a strength that's greater than my own, and I can bring other people alongside me in it, it actually opens the doorway for hope. It opens the doorway for healing. It opens the doorway for me to start moving forward rather than keep doing it on my own. And then, I would also just encourage you to, maybe you're in this place where maybe you've been burned in the past, and maybe you're kind of anxious about letting other people into the struggle. You can choose to stay alone in our struggle. I can choose to stay alone in my struggles. But choosing to stay alone is going to keep me alone. And I heard somebody say once that the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety. It's community. When I can bring other people alongside me in my struggles, there's a lot that changes. I find support. I find people alongside me. I find that I'm not the only one struggling with things, that other people understand. And I find that other people have found healing too. And so I know it can be hard to admit, man, this is the thing I'm afraid to say, that I'm depressed, that I'm anxious, that I've thought about not being here anymore, that I am struggling with this substance, that I struggle with this thing. I know it can be hard to say those things, but when we speak those out loud to another person, even though it's a risk, what I've found is that when I speak that out to the safe people that God has placed around me, it helps me to not keep carrying that burden alone. And when I bring the things out of the darkness into the light, I can see it, which means I can start changing it. But all of this starts with surrender. Am I willing to come to the point of saying, God, I need you. My way's not working, but I trust that you can change me. Do whatever it is you want to do. Surrender. Realize I'm not God. I admit that I'm powerless to control my tendency to do the wrong thing, and that my life is unmanageable. It's a hard decision to make, but it's so worth it. And if we can start in that space, God's going to walk with us and carry us through this. As we close today, I'm reminded of a verse out of Deuteronomy chapter 31. Deuteronomy 31:8, it says this: "The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. So do not be afraid and do not be discouraged. If you feel like the Lord is calling you into addressing an area of your heart, could it be the case that in his goodness and faithfulness, he's bringing that up because he's gone before you in that place? That he intends to guide you in the process. And that no matter what that thing is, no matter how shameful, no matter how much it hurts, that God intends on walking with you and never leaving you in that space. And that because of that, we don't have to fear the things that we're holding in our heart. Our God really is that good. Our God really is that faithful. And if he's led you to this point in your journey in healing, I promise you he's going to lead you forward. And so, with that said, I hope and pray that as we step into this next year, that God would do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine in your heart and in your life and in my heart and in my life, because he's not given up on us and he's going to walk with us in it. And as always, there is a place where you can find support and healing as we step closer towards Jesus at Celebrate Recovery. We meet every single Friday night at Fellowship Fayetteville Celebrate Recovery and Fellowship Rogers Celebrate Recovery. We would love to see you there. We would love to help walk alongside you and love to point you towards the reality that Jesus is willing to walk with us towards healing and hope in him as we surrender our hurts, our hang-ups, and our habits over to him. That there is nothing that we're carrying that is too big for him. And there is no wound or no struggle so big that he can't heal. And we hope to see you on a Friday night soon. God bless you. Thanks for listening.